Nicotine can be extremely difficult to quit, but in this video, I'll teach you my step-by-step process of how you can quit nicotine with ease and have very minimal cravings. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to this channel, and at anywhere throughout this video that I create value, please give a like or even throw in a comment and share something that might help the audience or me as a creator connect with you more. So let's get started. Number one, how can we quit nicotine with ease? First thing we need to do is figure out our frequency. So whether you're using pouches, whether you're smoking cigarettes, whatever you're doing, you need to figure out how many you're using a day and what your average frequency is, because this is going to be our baseline. And the best way to approach a baseline is to have zero judgment and just pay attention. So whether it be for the next few days, for the next week, I want you to figure out how many pouches or cigarettes you're using per day. And we're going to keep that number because essentially what we're going to do is decrease that number over time to essentially get to a part that is easy to eject and quit. So once you figure out how many pouches or how many cigarettes you're using a day, the second thing you need to do is essentially figure out when your quit day is going to be. And this can be a little difficult, but it's all going to be highly based on the number or how many cigarettes or pouches that you're using. So for instance, at one point I was using 20 Zyn pouches a day and was all the way up to like 6 milligrams. And then before I quit, I was down to the 3 milligrams 3 times a day. But essentially my average use was 20 pouches a day, whether it be 7 milligrams, 6 milligrams, or 3 milligrams. So then when it came time to quit this time, essentially what I did and what I've done in the past is essentially I built a 2-week window where I was like, essentially by this date I want to be done. And most of the time I actually quit before that date because I just get in sync with it and I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. And it's really easy to jump, especially with what I'm about to show you in this video with some couple supplements that'll help completely curb the cravings. But essentially what you have to do is pick that day to quit, because from your use of, say you're using 20 pouches or 20 cigarettes, over the next 2 weeks, you're going to decrease very slowly. And what you're going to do is go to the max of your craving window. So for instance, like even when I was using a lot, I didn't need them a lot. But what I found out was about every 4 hours, I would start to get a crave. So then essentially I'd go from my 20, and then I was able to go down to about 10 to 15, or well, I'd say 10 to 5 pouches pretty quickly, because I figured out that I get a craving every 4 hours. So, I mean, that's a really, really simple one. But essentially just pick a day to quit and stick to it and figure out how many you got to cut out every day before you get there, and then you essentially don't do it. And then next thing you're going to do is you're going to find some supplements. So these are actually key. The supplements here are called Ashwagandha and L-tyrosine. So these two are essential for quitting, because essentially Ashwagandha lowers your cortisol levels, which is stress and anxiety. So this will make you less triggered to want nicotine. The second thing you're going to do is grab L-tyrosine. And L-tyrosine, this is secretly a secret, and it is such a key here, because essentially what this is a dopamine hit, which whether it's a cigarette or whether it's a nicotine pouch, you're getting a dopamine hit, but it's a cheap one. It's a very cheap one, and that's why it's addictive. Whereas L-tyrosine is actually the stacking factor for dopamine. So what it does is give you a little extra dopamine so that you're less active to seek a craving, if that makes sense. This is kind of like gas to your car has like, a cigarette is like sucking it away. This is actually replenishing it, or whether it's a pouch. But this stuff will, anytime you get a craving at all during this whole process, take 500 milligrams to 1,000 L-tyrosine. It'll make the biggest difference. It'll curve it away pretty quickly. And before you know it, you'll be like, man, where did that craving go, Which is the beauty of it. And then, like I said, ashwagandha, I always say, wow. Ashwagandha essentially lowers the cortisol and the stress and adapts you more to stress so that you won't be triggered, because typically when you're triggered or something happens in life and you get stressed, you pull a cigarette or a pouch. Like, it's just human nature, right? The other thing I'd tell you to do is get almonds or sunflower seeds. These are essential too, because essentially whether you're smoking or using pouches, they call it oral fixation. And it essentially is just our mouth wanting activity. So gum can be very, very easy just to have something to chew on with some flavor to keep your mouth active. Sunflower seeds, I think, work better because they allow a crunch, which creates a little bit more of an oral fixation feeling. And then almonds are also great too, because they're high in fat and protein. And essentially what they do is give you that crunch too. So whether you want the sensory of the crunch or you just need something to keep your mouth active, choose one of those, because it will really help with the cravings as well. And a lot of the times too that I've noticed is actually my body was communicating to me that I was needing nicotine when actually it was just hungry. And something that you'll find out on this process is most of the time you're actually hungry when you're seeking nicotine, because also food gives you that same dopamine hit that L-tyrosine does, but it's a better dopamine hit. It's not a cheap one. Like, it's a really, really good dopamine hit. So the more you allow yourself to eat healthy foods, the less you'll also have cravings as well. Or whenever you get a craving, just eat something small. Take a little snack of something healthy, whether it be like, beans, potatoes, meat, steak, whatever. Whatever you want to eat, just allow yourself to eat it, because it'll also help curb the cravings. Boom. So what's next? Now what we got to do is essentially go to stopping. This is the moment. This is the moment we've all been waiting for, and this is the absolute secret to this whole entire video, is stopping. So whenever you've gone from your daily usage and you're tapering down, what I did personally, and you can relate this to cigarettes, but I was on 3 nicotine pouches, and I used one at breakfast, one at lunch, and one at dinner. So essentially the 3 key parts of the day is what I stretched out that craving zone to. And then when I hit that, I was like, let's quit. But the secret is when I started the quitting, and I didn't take that pouch in the evening, or essentially what I did was I waited until the evening to stop. Because this is the science behind it, is you're gonna sleep through your first massive craving, which is the absolute worst one. So whenever you wanna stop, what you can do is figure out that craving window, and right after you've hit a craving window, don't take it anymore and go to bed for the night and allow yourself to fall asleep, because you're going to sleep to the first craving, which I said is the worst craving. But then when you wake up in the morning, you're going to have an even longer period before you start craving. So typically when I do this quitting method, say I stop at 5 p.m. the night before, that is the last time I've used nicotine, I won't have a craving, and I'll go to bed at like 10. I'll wake up the next day, and I didn't have a craving the last time I did this until 5 p.m. the next day. Like, I almost was like starting to think like, when are these cravings going to happen? Which is like a beautiful feeling to have. But then as soon as I kind of felt it come on, I was like, all right, straight to L-tyrosine, or started chewing on something and just got something in my mouth, and started cooking dinner actually of a lot of healthy meals to really give me back more dopamine. And dopamine is the secret here. But essentially what you're doing is you're bypassing the worst craving zone and increasing your efficiency and ability to quit by having that massive gap. Because honestly, if you can make it past the first 48 hours, you're going to get through this. And that is like, honestly, what I tell you is like, really focus on the first 48 hours. And then beyond that, anytime you have a craving come in, try calling somebody, try talking to somebody, try just doing something. Get oral fixation, whether it's eating food, taking a snack, going for a walk. There's so many things that you can do that essentially give you dopamine, and you can look those up on the internet. I don't have that in the video, I don't have the list in front of me, but you can even use ChatGPT and AI and figure out what are high quality dopamine, like cold plunging, eating food, talking to people, hard work. There's a ton of them out there, and you just need to replace this cheap dopamine hit, whether it be cigarettes or nicotine, with a high quality dopamine hit. And dun dun dun, the last thing here that we got to do is reward yourself. Every day that you make it through a nicotine craving, do something special for yourself. And whether it's to give yourself a sweet treat, take yourself somewhere that you've always wanted to go for dinner, like that is a dopamine reward, because essentially we get our highest quality of dopamine from hard work. And it's hard focused work that we don't really want to do, but the more we do this stuff, the better quality of dopamine we get. So whether that's taking yourself out to a movie, a nice dinner, getting an extra dessert for the night, taking a day off work, whatever you need to do, just give yourself those rewards, because as you're rewarding yourself, you're creating a greater connection with yourself. And that greater connection with yourself is actually teaching you to trust yourself more and love yourself more, which essentially is pulling you away from ever needing any substance outside of yourself. And I think something else that you'll realize is dopamine is a synthetic connection, and it essentially has been filling the gap of other issues in your life. So whether this be like, loneliness, lack of connection to others, lack of self-love, lack of essentially self-confidence, nicotine and these cheap dopamine hits are a really good product that essentially allows you to soothe that pain. So as you quit, these might come in, but allow yourself just to feel it and sit with it and really understand you're allowing everything that you've shoved down in your life and didn't want to address might come up. So some other things you might do just to help with this process is journal, talk to some friends, like create content about it if you're a creative like me. Just allow yourself to be gentle with yourself, because this is a big moment in your life, because you're creating a change of essentially disconnecting and closing yourself off and opening the door to reintroduce yourself to the world, because it's time to connect with others, it's time to be creative, and it's time to be your greatest self. So guys, Thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully it brought you value. If you guys have any questions, like, feel free to shoot me a message on here or comment below, because I would love to help you. And like I said, I use this process all the time because honestly, I love the focus and attention that nicotine gives me, and having a Zyn pouch in when I'm working and I'm kind of scatterbrained, it really does help me zero in. But like I said, there is that bit where they become addictive, and if you don't have that discipline, then essentially what happens is you start using them all the time. But honestly, if you do want to use them during work as a reward, just only do it when you're focused on work in a very, very, very high quality deep work state, and then only allow yourself to have it then, because then it becomes a reward and then you look forward to working and doing stuff. But we're going to create another video on this of really called dopamine stacking with work. But before we get into too much and I start rambling, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much and have a great day. Peace out.